consultant himself. But it was his earlier life that I was very intrigued in, and I heard third hand of a conversation where he was discussing his life as a young boy and the tough childhood, constantly in and out of hospital, breaking bones over and over, and being schooled in what we used to term at the time as the Cork Spastic Clinic. A rather cruel way of describing a place where children went, Stephen, but perfectly acceptable back in the day.
Yes, and I don't think anybody saw it as a problem back in the day, but if it was no, I don't think it'd be accepted.
Spasticus autisticus is a term that was used.
Spasticity of the kind of the muscles and the move, your bones and your movement and stuff. It was physical conditions, but what happened after time was a lot of other kids went in there with other conditions. It wasn't just defined to one person. I think it was set up in the 60s or 70s, which of course now is Enable Ireland. You know, I know you guys are involved with that event next week to raise funds for them. But the Cork Spastic Clinic, I suppose there was a bit of a stigma, and if you talk to a lot of people in the Ballintemple, Ballinlough area, I'd imagine they still remember the old name up on the building, and
I remember it.
I
remember.
So
would it be correct to term it as a place where children went because we didn't have the medical knowledge or the expertise to deal with them in mainstream schooling? Or
exactly. I mean, if you think back, so when I went to school first, it would have been 1984. Mainstream school wouldn't have known how to deal with a child with the condition that I have. So
what did you have?
So I have a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. Now, some people might call it brittle bones because that's what mainly it affects. It's not the only thing it affects, but in my lifetime I've had over 50 breaks. But I also suffer from like loose limbs, so I'd sprain my knee and sprain my ankle and off and on. I'd bruise very easily.
Like a piece of china.
Kind of, yeah. And when you're a kid, it actually affects you far more than an adult. So when you get to puberty, it starts easing off with the type of version that I have. So when I was younger, literally from 6 months old, I had my first break. And from that point on, I could be in and out of cast.
What would you break?
So mainly hands and legs. Mainly legs. Like you could break your femur, your tibia, your ankle.
Just like that?
Just like that.
Like bumping against something or turning or twisting or...
And the funny thing was, you could have a very bad fall and nothing might happen to you. And you could literally kneel down. I remember kneeling down when I was 12 and I broke my femur and I was in traction for 8 weeks
after. Your femur is... Which bone is that?
The long bone between your knee and your hip. Yeah, just from kneeling. So... It's
like chalk, was it, instead of bone?
Yeah, so what happens is there's a lack of collagen in your body, and as a result your bones are extremely weak. It's like a lack of protein. But everybody's bones usually, especially when we're kids, they kind of replenish after. It's like your nails and your fingers, so you get new bones every kind of month. They say every 30 days or so. However, with the condition that we have, they don't replenish as quick, so one bone is gone and the other bone hasn't come in at the same time. So there's a vulnerability stage, and nobody can ever predict when that happens. No.
But the pain, though?
The pain is... Yeah, but what's really interesting about the pain is somebody with the condition gets a huge pain tolerance. Like, I mean, I remember when I was younger, people wouldn't believe me that I was after breaking something. I remember a stage in my life when I think I was about 9 or 10, I was in school. And a football went... down the toilet, boys in the class, and I went and got it because I was stuck in for the break, and my hand got stuck getting the ball out, and I felt something go, but I carried on in class, and I said it to the teacher, and I said, I think I'm after breaking my hand, and he said, you look okay, you're probably fine. I went to the hospital that evening, and there was a broken bone in my wrist, and he couldn't believe it the next day when I turned up into school in a cast. So like I would have a huge pain threshold for that reason. I think it's probably you get so used to it, and if you
did your parents were they always warning you like don't run, don't play ball, don't caffle in the schoolyard?
I don't think they had to, because I think I knew that myself.
Did you wonder, is this going to be my life?
Oh, at times when I was younger, definitely, yeah. There was times, Neil, where I was very afraid. I was afraid to even walk. Like when I was 10, like one of the things that we have with the condition is you suffer from flat feet, so fallen arches. But the worst thing about having flat feet, it has a knock-on effect to your knees and stuff like that. You could fall over and sprain them and stuff like that, and twist your knee. And the doctor I had at the time, he said, look, let's try and rectify this, see can we fix this a bit. So he took a bone out of my hip and put it into my ankle and tried to support it, but it meant that I was in cast for 4 months. This was when I was kind of 9 going on 10. It was the whole summer. It was actually the World Cup in 1990, because I remember it well. I was in cast.
Italia, 90.
Yeah, and the whole summer I was in cast. But when I came out of cast at the end of August, I blanked. I think it was fear, but I could not figure out how to walk again. And they put me through brain scans and everything. And I think it was just because I was coming to that stage in my life where I was like, if I don't do thing, nothing will happen to me. And I spent a whole year not walking, and then something just one day came back and I got the confidence and I started walking again. But that kind of stuff happened a lot. So you would live with the fear, or the fear of falling. The amount of dreams you'd have of falling is incredible, but mainly just after having a break.
Yeah, because you see, you'd have the break, like whatever bone. You've probably broken most bones in your body.
Most of them, yeah.
And then you were inevitably just waiting to break the next one.
Kind of, you're saying, when is the next one going to happen?
Did you? And in the spastic clinic, what happened down there? Would you go to school there?
So, yeah, I went to school. I went to the nursery school first, and then I stayed there, made my Holy Communion there. I stayed there for 4 years. And they were fantastic. I mean, they really gave me the confidence to go forward. And they pulled my parents aside at one stage and said, look, we're going to try our best to see can we get them into mainstream school.
And that was Scully-Sagon, was it?
Scully-Sagon and Farnry. Because they probably felt that they got me to a certain stage.
But did you have to stay away from everybody else? When
I went to Scully-Sagon?
Yeah, you couldn't be, what I mean?
So I never went into the yard. I never went out on break time. I stayed in the whole time.
And were the lads kind to you? Like, they knew
they were, yeah. I have to say that. I think I had one episode of bullying with older kids, but in fairness, the school sorted it. It never happened again after that. But yeah, like, kids in my own age, kids in my class were very good to me, and they understood. And it's funny, because I was getting my car valeted recently, and there was a guy said to me, "You're Stephen Ryan." He says, "Aren't you?" And I says, "Yeah, I am." He says, "How you know?" And I says, "I'm all right." He says, "I went to school with you." He says, "Are you still breaking stuff?" And that happened to me. That's happened to me a few times over the years. I remember being in a nightclub when I was in college or something like that, and a guy came up to me. I'd say a good few on board, and he says, "How are you?" And he put his arm around me. He says, "I never thought I'd see the day where I'd see you out dancing in a nightclub and stuff like that." So it obviously was playing on their minds as much.
But you know the guy valeting the car yesterday, are you still breaking things? Like, are you still breaking things?
Touch wood, I've been lucky enough in the past couple of years. No, it doesn't go away. So I think about 10 years ago, would you believe I had a lucky run of maybe 7 years without a break, and then I broke twice in 2 weeks.
Get away.
So I broke my scapula. I was chasing a dog around the kitchen trying to get him in, and of course I slipped, fell on, and an unusual bone. When I went to the hospital, the doctor said, "Were you playing rugby?" And I said, "You obviously didn't read what I suffer from, because I wouldn't be playing rugby, that's for sure."
Read the file, man.
Like, I don't think anybody with this condition would play rugby. They wouldn't last that long if they did. And then 2 weeks later, I was coming down the stairs, and because sometimes when you have the condition, you're a bit clumsy as well. They say that it comes with it. It's because you have loose joints, so you fall a lot. But I lost my balance on the stairs, and I fell over and dislocated my ankle and broke it in 5 places.
Oh, for God's sake.
And to be honest, it's funny now, because the fractures I had when I was younger don't seem to affect me, but that one 10 years on, any cold weather, my ankle is killing me. Now, there's lots of small things happen. So I'd say I've broken my ribs a couple of times, because I never go to the hospital with those things, because they can't do anything for them. But I'd know the feeling, because when you have the condition, you kind of sense when something happens, there's this sensation.
So you just live with it, like, you're going around with the pain of even trying to breathe with a broken rib.
Yeah, because if you sneeze, you'd know that's happening.
And why did you keep it so quiet for so long? I mean, what was your plan in life? What did you want to do? What did you want to be? What path did you want to go?
Yeah, so early days, it's funny, because having the condition, I could never play any sports or anything like that, even though I've always been obsessed with football, as in soccer. And I suppose some mad idea in my head that I wanted to eventually be the manager of Manchester United or some crazy idea like that.
But kids' dreams,
Kids' dreams. And then I realised early on I was going to have to get into something office related, woodwork or any manual labour wouldn't do for me, because you also suffer a lot of fatigue with the condition.
You couldn't do it. It'd be impossible.
So it would be impossible. So I suppose I planned. I went to CIT. I went and did a business degree, and but I was at that point when I got to college, because obviously in secondary school they knew that I had the condition. I went to Mayfield Community School and they were fantastic to me there. But when I went to college, I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to keep this to myself for now. And
you're afraid you wouldn't get hired or something?
Yeah, I was, and some of my early jobs were in the building industry. Like I was working with a galvanizing company, I was working with a building product supplier, and a lot of there was a bit of lifting boxes, not too much. And I suppose in my own head I was saying, if I tell them that I could potentially break something, I could be out of work for a bit, I won't get the job.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me thinks, could I blame them either?
Yeah.
And there is still...
If there's two people looking for the job, who are they going to give it to?
And there's a bit of a stigma still. What's really interesting, so when I launched my own business last year, I kind of told the story about how I went from being in the Corks Spastic Clinic to kind of overcoming a lot of obstacles. So I missed the whole of 4th class, for example, in primary school, and went on and did a master's for myself. And I said, but I kept this condition kind of a secret because I wanted to build it on my own merits. But the amount of people since then that have spoken to me, that have something that they suffer from themselves.
That they keep quiet.
Yeah.
Which it could be a physical or mental thing.
Yeah.
Psychological or...
Mainly physical. Yeah. I think we've got to the stage where we're a bit more open about some of the mental stuff, but some physical, I think people, it's not embarrassing, but it's something that very personal to them.
Yeah.
And again, I think they don't want to be judged at work. They don't want to be judged in their day-to-day lives. And I've had a couple of people say to me, hopefully I'll be ready someday to tell my story.
And yours is an incredible story because it's brought you right up to, international travel. I know you're just back from a conference overseas. Yeah. And you also have a terrific 24 Stories conference happening here in Lisa. What's that about? Yeah,
so, look, I'm telling my own story this morning, and I believe everybody has a story. Every business sets up for some reason. I'm convinced of it. Whether it's a dream that they always had, or whether, by accident they came across it, or they met the right person at the right time and it created a business. So I think marketing has a role to play in all of that. And obviously I've been head of marketing here, and I was head of marketing at Fota Wildlife Park as well. And I believe marketing is more about telling stories than selling.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge confusion in that. Some people think marketing is just about advertising and push all the time. No, it's not. Marketing is about having a brilliant story, being able to say who you are, what you are, why you're here, what kind of things that you do for your customers and your staff. And as a result, I wanted to organise a proper conference in Cork to kind of show people how it's done properly.
Okay, and that's happening on the 22nd down in Fota Island. Who have you got?
So I suppose the most famous person I have is probably Vogue Williams, and the reason why I brought her is I was watching the documentary she did for RT about social media, and the fact that she's built a phenomenal brand. She just launched her own, I think, Bare by Vogue, I think a tanning product this week, but she started off as a model, then became a DJ, TV presenter, and now works with lots of brands.
And she's been very open about her life, actually.
I'm very open. I kind of wanted to talk to her about that. I'm fascinated at this whole influencer world. Even though she says she's not one, she has over 500,000 followers. And people are very curious of her life. That kind of voyeurism comes in. I think they're looking at her with her husband and her child. Yeah. Chris Kubernus, he's well regarded worldwide. He speaks at lots of conferences. Forbes magazine, the business magazine in the US, called him the #1 expert on Snapchat.
You got the man behind the success of Hosier, don't you?
Brendan Canty. Yeah, some
man
people
behind Take Me to the Church.
Yeah, some people might
no
realise.
Brendan Canty, there'd be no Hosier. No disrespect to Hosier, but if that video hadn't worked, Hosier wouldn't have worked.
Neil, Stevie would tell you this, Stevie G from here, that Hosier played in the pavilion to 6 people in the bar.
Heard that, yeah.
6 people. Later that year, Brendan and Con Thompson, they made the video. They made it in Cork, a black and white video. And the next thing, Hosier is a global superstar, 300 million views.
Other global superstar is Pat Phelan, isn't he?
Yeah, look, Pat is a huge success story and is, I suppose, a serial entrepreneur at this stage. Having been with Cubic Telecom, then he moved on to Trustdev. But I'm really interested. He's kind of sidestepped now, and he's gone into kind of, I suppose, beauty, into the kind of cosmetic industry, that kind of area. And it'll be fascinating to see what's his take on building that story, because in the space of a year I think he's up to 5 or 6 different outlets, and he's getting a lot of exposure.
This is great because we don't want to necessarily always just see these things in Dublin or down in Lisbon. This is great for Cork. Is it open to the public or tickets for sale?
Yeah, tickets are for sale. So if you put in 24stories.eventbrite.com, you can go straight on to Eventbrite. And
it's not just for people who want to hustle in the business community.
No, not at all. So I would see this as anyone that's interested in kind of getting on with their career, anyone that's a student studying any type of business or anything at all, anyone that's maybe thinking about setting up their own entrepreneurial journey, and that could be anything, or someone that's just curious about this whole online world, influencers, creativity, anything like that.
Okay, do you miss radio?
I do. I miss. I mean, the last time I was sitting across from you here, we were trying to give away 15 grand, if you remember.
I'm quite sure we did it.
We did, and there was a lady, I think, from Corner Churchfield, ran down the hill and got it. Which, I do. I miss it. Look, radio's a great business, and I think, there's loads of people listening to my chat with you here this morning, and I think that's a great thing, and lots of different stories. This is probably the best vehicle for storytelling in the world.
To connect, it certainly is. Listen, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. I don't mean to overly rush you, but a wonderful, wonderful story. People want to go to narration and 24 stories, then eventbrite.com/24 stories, I guess.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Stephen. Thanks for popping in. Back after 11 on 1850 104 106.